Welcome back to Spiritual Quest. In the flourishing cultural landscape of 15th century Florence, during the height of the Italian Renaissance, Marsilio Ficino emerged as one of the most influential philosophers and translators of his age. Commissioned by Cosimo de' Medici, Ficino translated the works of Plato and the Neoplatonists into Latin, making them accessible to the Western world. But Ficino was more than a translator. He was a thinker who merged classical philosophy, Christian theology, and mystical insight into a profound vision of the soul. His central teaching was that the human soul is a spark of the divine mind, a mirror of the cosmos infused with intelligence, order, and love. In this script, we will journey through Ficino's vision of the soul, the harmony of the cosmos, and the way human consciousness participates in divine reality. Marsilio Ficino was born in 1433, just as Florence was becoming the intellectual capital of Europe. Under the patronage of the Medici family, he became the head of the Platonic Academy of Florence, where scholars, artists, and mystics gathered to study the wisdom of the ancients. Ficino translated not only Plato but also Plotinus, Porphyry, and the Hermetic texts, bringing Neoplatonic and mystical thought into dialogue with Christianity. His vision was to create a synthesis, faith enriched by philosophy and philosophy deepened by revelation. For Ficino, the human soul stood at the center of this synthesis, uniting heaven and earth in its very structure. Ficino's metaphysics begins with the conviction that all reality emanates from God, the supreme source of being, goodness, and intelligence. The soul, he argued, is a direct spark of this divine mind, a ray of the eternal logos shining into the human person. This means that consciousness is not merely a human faculty but a divine inheritance. In knowing ourselves, we glimpse the infinite. The soul's structure mirrors the cosmos itself, containing within it the rational, the imaginative, and the sensual. By harmonizing these faculties, the soul awakens to its true nature as a reflection of divine intelligence. This vision gave the human person immense dignity, not as an isolated creature but as a microcosm of the universe. Ficino drew on the Neoplatonic concept of the great chain of being, a hierarchy stretching from God at the summit down through the angels, stars, humans, animals, plants, and minerals. In this hierarchy, the human soul occupies a unique middle place. We share materiality with the earth, rationality with the angels, and consciousness with God. This mediating role gives humanity extraordinary significance. We are capable of descending into sensuality or ascending into divine contemplation. Ficino saw this freedom as the essence of our nature. The soul's ability to move upward toward its divine source reflects its status as a living mirror of the cosmos, holding the spark of the eternal within. Central to Ficino's philosophy was the idea that love is the binding force of the universe. He believed that the soul is drawn upward by love, seeking to return to its divine origin. Love unites the many with the one, harmonizing diversity into unity. Ficino described this cosmic love as an echo of God's self-giving. Just as the sun radiates light, God radiates love into creation, and every soul longs to return to that radiance. Human consciousness experiences this longing as the desire for truth, beauty, and goodness. For Ficino, even earthly love is a spark of divine love, a reminder that the soul is oriented toward the infinite. Ficino was not only a philosopher, but also a musician, and he often used the metaphor of music to describe the harmony of the soul and cosmos. He believed that the stars and planets produced a celestial music, the harmony of the spheres, which resonated within the human soul. Consciousness, in this sense, is a kind of instrument tuned to the rhythms of the universe. When the soul lives in harmony with divine truth, it resonates with this cosmic music, experiencing joy and illumination. Ficino even prescribed music and singing as spiritual practices to attune the soul to the divine order. In this vision, awareness is not just intellectual but vibrational, a living participation in the symphony of creation. For Ficino, the purpose of human life was the ascent of the soul, the journey back to God through contemplation and virtue. This ascent involves purifying the passions, disciplining the imagination, and awakening the intellect to divine realities. Philosophy and theology are tools for this ascent, but so too are art, music, and love, which elevate the soul by reminding it of beauty and truth. In this process, consciousness expands beyond the narrow confines of the self, recognizing its identity as a spark of divine mind. The ascent is not an escape from the world, but its fulfillment, for in returning to God, the soul discovers that all of reality is suffused with divine presence. Ultimately, Ficino's teaching presents a cosmic vision of consciousness. The soul is not a closed entity, but a mirror reflecting the entire universe, a spark of divine intelligence capable of knowing both creation and its creator. In his synthesis of Plato, Christianity, and Renaissance humanism, Ficino affirmed that human beings are not insignificant specks in a vast cosmos, but participants in the divine life. The awakening of the soul is the realization that consciousness itself is already divine in origin, already connected to the eternal Logos. To live in this awareness is to embrace the dignity of the soul, to love the cosmos as God's self-expression, and to recognize that our inner spark is the flame of the infinite. Marsilio Ficino's Renaissance philosophy reminds us that the human soul is far greater than it appears. By calling the soul a spark of divine mind, he placed consciousness at the center of a cosmic drama, born of God, reflecting the universe, and called to return to its source. His vision of love, harmony, and ascent remains as inspiring today as it was in Florence centuries ago. Ficino invites us to see ourselves not as separate from the cosmos, but as mirrors of its divine order, living sparks of intelligence destined to awaken to the fullness of God's radiant mind.